Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, the Stabinator. Apparently, I am the lore boss of the Lordom. So we had an interesting Faerunian question on Tumblr this week. This week's been a hell of a week for news, hasn't it? So we actually do have quite a few things to talk about this week. I'm not even sure where to begin. I think the best part to begin would be to never tickle anyone. Now, that's very important, because tickles are they're the worst, right? Yes. I mean, nobody likes tickles, right? So, it seems logical, then, to presume that there should be no tickling.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
You can't bring the one I already made and brought down here to get one. No, and the thing.
Well, where is it?
I wrote.
Oh, you're talking about the letter? This one? Because I'm keeping this.
The letter.
You don't get that back.
The letter and this.
Aww. But it's so pretty. Did you ever ask Baba if he could make another one?
Oh, no.
You should ask Baba if he could make another one.
This is the beads. They turn much tinier.
Well, yeah, that's the idea.
And this looks like a cracker now.
It's not a cracker.
It's a heart-shaped colored cracker.
I don't know. Let me try it. It's not very tasty. I don't think it's a cracker, kiddo.
I know, it's not a cracker.
Hey, don't put that on your face.
No.
What are you doing?
I'm a heart-faced person.
You are such a stranger, you know that?
I'm wearing candles. Wearing a candle.
Why are you wearing candles?
I'm wearing a candle.
You can't be a heart thing wearing candles.
I'm a heart
Did someone tell her, please, that she can't do this?
I'm a heart person wearing a candle.
What am I going to do with her, guys? See, we're live right now. See? Here. I'll show
With
you.
money.
See?
With tokens.
Yes, this is the tip jar right here. This thing.
Tokens.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of tokens in there. Now, what was I going to tell you, kiddo? You're destroying my brain, little one.
What?
You're destroying my brain. Are you a zombie?
No.
Hang on, let me test really quick. Okay, you're not eating my brains. I think we're good.
I'm eating myself.
No, that's even worse. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Should I change into a 5
Sure.
dress?
Change into a 5, little one.
I don't want to be wearing a 5 dress. Should I change into a 4?
That's not a 4.
No, should I change it to a 4?
Oh, yes. You are now a 4.
But I'm already a 4.
Nope, you're a 4 now. Congratulations.
2 times 4.
You are. Well, what is 2 times 4?
8.
Very good.
I am 2 times 4.
Now, real quick.
So I'm
If
8.
I was to put these numbers next to each other, which symbol would you put in between them? I know you can't draw
9.
it. No. That's actually very good, but what I meant is, with the lessons you've been doing lately with the greater than and less than,
Yeah.
so which one would you put?
But
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I need to get that 6 from your mother at some point.
you know, the 6 is upstairs.
Go get it. Go get it.
No, it's in its wrapper.
Go get it, or else I will destroy you. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, don't actually play with that. That's the garage opener.
I know.
You can play with this. Each one of these clicks is for how many times she's adorable. I'm sorry, Palayan. By the way, hello everyone. Who we got this morning? Vigilant, Revan, Mike Romano, Corrales, Black Val, Bartman Dilemma, Max Time, SJ, Jaludo, Rejern, I remembered, Seraphim, oh god, Trickster's Lab, Izir, Maze, Hazardous, Palayan.
49 points.
Why do you have so many points?
No, that's for your points.
Oh, I get 4. Oh, sweet. I have 49 points. Yeah!
I gotta make more points.
Ugh. What are you doing?
You get even more points.
Oh gosh, you're like on my... Hang on. Raise your right arm. Right arm. There you go. Oh my goodness.
Look, you have...
No, I am not cute.
You have 50 points.
But I'm not cute, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, she understands. I am not cute. Thank you very, very much, Tokyo Vampire. And towards Venters. And it looks like you want to put that towards Project Judge, which I will jot down immediately. So that would be... Let me make sure I spell this correctly. Yeah, I don't want lore crates. Sorry, guys. Oh my god. The chat is... What are you doing, little one?
100.
Project...
I made it to 100.
Judgment. You did, you're right. And what would you like to put that towards, Ventures? And thank you, both of you. Can you say thank you for me, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, look.
Hello, Sonashi.
You have this many points.
That is a lot of... Oh, that's one of my favorite numbers, too. Thank you. Do you know which number this is?
What?
No. Do you know?
No.
Well, you know you can count past 100, so which number is this? Think it out. What's the first one?
One.
Which makes...
One.
Don't play with that. Don't play with that.
11.
So that makes 11, right?
11 and 1.
But what does the first one sound like?
1.
No.
11.
No.
I don't know.
You know this, kiddo. You've done this. You've actually counted this high before. Don't play with that.
101, 102,
Kiddo.
103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110.
And then?
110.
No. What's the next one?
111.
There you go. See, you can do this.
Oh,
Yes, we do have the Lore Comcast emote. Is it already doing that? Seriously? God, I'm so sick of Comcast here. I'm sorry, guys. It's a good thing I'm not streaming for most of this month, huh?
Ta-da! You get this many points.
Yay! And now I eat the points.
We're getting all the way.
Anyways, guys, we do have a couple of little lore tidbits, or news tidbits, excuse me, to cover. First of all, Stanley Parable is coming out on console now, and Stanley Parable is apparently going to be having some new content, but it's still going to lose out to The Last of Us. They're making a Crash Racing remake. I'm not actually sure what that is, because I never played the original, so I'm not sure what that is.
61. 160 points.
There you go. So, whoop, yeah, here, careful.
You get that many points.
There you go.
You get this many points.
Ugh, that's too many points. Too many points. Do you want to say 999 or quad 9?
999.
No, you gotta say it right. 999. You gotta roll them into each other. 999.
9.
There you go. What else? They announced a new Far Cry.
5.
5. They announced a new Far Cry called Far Cry New Dawn, which apparently is continuing the continuity. For those of you not aware, Far Cry, the Far Cry series have always had a very loose continuity with each other and with the rest of Ubisoft's major games. So
This is a 0.
yes, I see a little one.
You get 0 points.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I must destroy you now. Beep, boop, destroy. Destroy.
You get no points.
Destruction mode engaged.
Don't do it in the chair.
Okay.
I don't like it.
No more destroying.
Fine.
But yeah, apparently this is following... Joseph Seed is actually a character in New Dawn, which is the interesting part to me. And the fact that this is probably the continuation after the nuke ending of Far Cry 5, which I'm not sure what I think of that. But at the very least, I'm in favor of continuity in general. And so I'm completely with it. No. What are you trying to do?
I want to play on it.
What are you trying to do?
I want to play on your phone.
Okay, here you go. Thank you very, very much, Blue Elf Alex. As ever, thank you, and I hope you have a good one. And I'll put that towards Twiwoo in a second here, as soon as I pull it back up.
Where should I go?
And Ventures, I never heard what you wanted to put it towards, by the way. Blue Elf Alex. Ooh,
Ooh,
there we go.
favorites.
There we go. Oh no, it was pretty messed up, Pelayan. But it's okay, because he has saved humanity. What else? Mark Laidlaw. Her name is Little One. Mark Laidlaw has decided to join Ubisoft. Not sure what I think of that. Did I say Mark? I meant Mike. There's too many Laidlaws. Mike Laidlaw, Christ, has decided to join Ubisoft. I'm not sure what that's going to lead to. Just thought I'd mention it because people thought it was newsworthy, so I'm mentioning it. I thought there was another little thing. Can I turn this down a little bit, please?
Yes.
There we go. Let me put that there. Whoop. I gotta turn it back down. Alright, there we go. We're good. No, this is not the Half-Life Laidlaw. This is the Dragon Age Laidlaw. That's why I get the two very confused. Because their names are astonishingly similar to each other. It's Mark Laidlaw and Mike Laidlaw. I don't know what you're talking about. So why don't we get to some Tumblr questions here. Really quick. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm probably going to put you on my bed. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
But don't...
Actually, I bet you can get up there by yourself, can you?
Yep.
You can move the sharks if you need to.
Hello, sharks.
Okay, so that's it for news. Let's hit some Tumblr questions really quick before we get to the rest of what we have to talk about. We do actually have a lot to cover this week. What is he doing? Oh, is he just resting on his mama? Ah! No.
Baby shark was resting on top of Papa.
Okay, okay. That's Mama Shark.
I meant Mama.
Ubisoft is better than EA. That is absolutely true. At least Ubisoft makes good games. Anyways. The first question... Wow, Jesus.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
Hi. So... Oh yeah, Joker for Smash. I'm not sure who Joker is, but I'm assuming he's a Persona character. Let's see here. Also, there's a Kingdom Hearts trailer that just dropped, which I'm probably not going to cover because it just dropped. It's from Vigilant. Hang on, I haven't even talked about the real news yet. For Battlefleet Gothic 2. I'm going to comment on your comment later, Vigilant. In fact, looking at my schedule here, it's actually the literal last thing I'm going to cover today, Vigilant. But don't worry, I'm going to get there. And thank you very, very much for the donation. So, oh, well, then I definitely can't restream it. Let's talk about Tumblr questions, first and foremost. So first of all, this one's about Zelda. Actually, these next two are about Zelda, and I kind of wanted to share them with you because I thought these were interesting questions. First and foremost... I suppose I should get a timestamp. First and foremost. Wait, what? Hang on. Where's my timestamp? Although I've noticed my timestamps have been off lately. So I don't know what's up with that. We'll just try that and see how bad it is. Trails of Cold Steel. Yes, I just finished that game this week, actually. How would you design a Legend of Link or a Legend of Ganondorf game, is the first question. Now, well, I don't know what's up with it, honestly, Max Time. No, Mike Romano. First of all, she's usually not up or about at this time, or sometimes she's busy with her parents. Second of all, I always get accused of stuff whenever she shows up on my stream. It's very strange. So my thinking... well, actually, I'll wait for you guys to toss in any thoughts on that one before I move forward. So how would you do it? Now, my thinking... I'll just say, because nobody's talking in chat right now, is that Legend of Link would probably be something more focused on playing as Zelda. Kind of already have given my thoughts on that one, because I was talking about that extensively when it came to Breath of the Wild. Yes, I'm actually a lizard person, sorry. Not that we have to rescue Link, although that would be amusing, but no, just playing as Zelda. I mean, it's not like they can't make Zelda an interesting character or something interesting to play as. They've done that multiple times. Spirit Tracks comes to mind immediately. So how about just playing as Zelda in her own thing, in her own game, which may or may not include Link. I think there's a lot of stuff you could do with the alternate playstyle. I know this because every time Zelda's shown up as a playable, mostly in Gaiden games like Smash, she has been someone else. Oh yeah, by the way, some people are saying I should stream Smash. That's a fascinating idea. I literally can't. It's not here. It was supposed to be here Friday. It is not. Still not sure what's going on with that. Anyways. But yeah, I mean, you could do... honestly, there's so much you could do with Zelda playstyle that the sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't even be out of the wrapping if it was here. Because... So you have a head of state who is a mage, who is also capable with her sword, who also has a ninja form. I mean, that's like 4 major playstyles right there, just wrapped into her. There's so much you could do with it, I'm not sure where to go with that. I would have to really sit and think about like 15 ideas that I have and try to actually narrow it down to what I actually want to do with her. You know? really, really torn on that one. There's just a lot. And yes, Zelda is kind of OP in her own right. Honestly, as she should be. There we go. No, Daniel, I've been busy. Now, playing as Ganondorf... I mean, that just sells itself, doesn't it? In fact, actually, I got to be completely honest. What I'm envisioning here is an idea of a game where you start off playing as Ganondorf, and then the second game, which is a direct sequel to the first one, you end up playing as Zelda, and then the third game, which is a direct sequel to the previous one, you end up playing as Link. Just bam, 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 like that. And of course, as we talked about again during the Breath of the Wild premiere run, just vary up the playstyle significantly, really emphasize their elements. Give Zelda a toolkit, give Zelda a lot of different abilities and a little different paths. Use the Dishonored style of level design when it comes to the Zelda playstyle, right? Make it so that there's a lot of different ways she can get from point A to point B. As the Ganondorf thing, make him absolutely doomy. I mean, I've played Hyrule Warriors as Ganondorf. He really is just a wrecking machine in that. Just smashing everything in his way. You know, make him absolutely overwhelmingly powerful and make the player feel like it while still giving them some kind of challenge and interesting, design stuff's ever going. That's just my thoughts right off the top of my head. I don't know. Word for thought. Word for thought? Food for thought. Fury without diplomacy and with more magic. Fury has diplomacy? Ganon Smash. I mean, God, I am so sick of Comcast. I'm going to try to do something about that this week, but I guarantee it's not going to work because I've already done it. Anyways, shrug. I do like the idea of branching out into different genres because I'm one of those people who constantly thinks that we should have different genres of different games, but that's just, I feel like I'm kicking a dead horse at this point, so I'm just going to move on from that point. Now, this next question is far more interesting to me personally, and that would be... You should definitely stab Comcast. Death to Comcast. Comcast is the bad guy. So if you had to take basically one element from each Zelda game and lift it up into a new Zelda game, which element would you pick from each game? Lol, Czar. Isn't Fury's story arc about becoming the leader of the Four? Which one's Vesperia? Hang on. Gotta look that up. Ah, this is the one that's finally coming out on something other than the Xbox. There's already Premiere Run being funded for that. Assuming we ever get back to streaming again. I like that idea next time. Like I kind of mentioned that when I went to the other genres thing. I love the idea of being able to play as a game where loss is inevitable. It's only a matter of defining victory, right? So I think we can just nix Zelda 1 and 2 from the list. I mean, what do you pull from Zelda 1, right? From Link to the Past, I got to be honest, I'm really torn because there's a lot of games, Zelda games, that I'd be tempted to pull the aesthetic from, because there's actually quite a few Zelda games I like the aesthetic of, including Link to the Past and its successor, Four Swords and Link Between Worlds, as well as Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Breath of the Wild. I like the aesthetic of all those games, so... But anyways, so Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Zelda 3, Link to the Past. Honestly, I know this is going to sound weird, but I think the thing I would bring most out of Link to the Past is the Dark World. Now, I know we've always had kind of an alternate dimension thing, but honestly, we've never really done a Dark World again, other than Link Between Worlds, and even that wasn't actually the Dark World. So I think that's a concept that we could use. It's either that from Link to the Past, or that from Link Between Worlds, and I have something better to pull from Link Between Worlds. So, mirror world, 2 world maps like this. That's what I would want to pull. I really like that concept. Let's move forward to Ocarina. What do we pull from Ocarina? I'm not sure on that one. Well, the idea is more gameplay concepts, aren't it, rather than story stuff. I have not played Darksiders 3, no, Zara. I don't even own it yet. Ninja Zelda. I do like Type 1 time travel, I do have to admit. What's the question? We're pulling one element from each Zelda game and making them into a new Zelda game. Yeah, I'm amused by that, Hasdus, but admittedly more surprised than anything else. I do have to admit that the thing I would probably pull from Ocarina is the time travel, as much as I hate to do that. But I would probably just do it as kind of like a side thing. You know, a little... Like I said, Type 1 time travel. Or the Ocarina itself. That's actually not a bad idea. Let's pull the Ocarina itself, because I was going to do that somewhere else, but let's pull the Ocarina itself and add the songs as a gameplay element. So, we've got the Flip World, we've got the songs from Majora's Mask. There's a lot of things I would want from a Majora's Mask. But I don't think I would pull this from Majora's Mask, if you follow my visual metaphor here. Instead, I think the thing I would most likely want to pull from Majora's Mask is the tight design of the characters. Yeah, the side quests, exactly, the NPCs. I'm actually really happy that some of you guys thought in the same direction I did before I even got it out. So, I would pull in the characters, the NPCs, the side quests, the extra stuff to do. No, come back, Palayan, no. See you around. So that's what I would do with regards to... That's what I would pull out of Majora's. So then we have Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. Let's skip that one. Then we have Wind Waker. Let's get to the big ones. You know, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. See, I'm torn on aesthetic, because we have to pick an aesthetic from one of these. Let's assume money is not a factor. What do I pull from the CDI games? Depression and suicidal thoughts. See, I was actually thinking the boat stuff, too. Because it's either the boat stuff or the aesthetic, I was thinking. Because I know when I want to pull... I know where I want to pull the combat from. So I kind of think I agree with you guys. I think we should go ahead and have the maritime exploration. It's a great way to put it. The naval aspect of the game. In fact, if we're to cheat a little bit, we can also pull the ship customization from Phantom Hourglass into this as well. Not that we're counting Phantom Hourglass. So, like, have a ship, have islands, have sea that you could do, have stuff that you could do, have customization, you know, add that kind of thing in there. Which would then leave us with Twilight Princess. Now, Twilight Princess, honestly, as weird as this is going to sound, I think what I would most want to pull out of Twilight Princess is the dungeon design. In my opinion, Twilight Princess has some of the best dungeon designs in the Zelda franchise. There's only one other game that challenges that for me, personally. So, yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? I know, tricksters. I keep waiting for that. For those of you not aware, the Zelda pseudo-lore run is kind of waiting on them porting more stuff to Switch. Hoping that's going to happen. Fingers crossed. Anyways. And I'm having a long delay today, aren't I? Dropped frames and long delays. Yay. Who knows, wherever I end up heading up after this, I might even have better internet. Why is it called a pseudo-lore run? Because it's not a lore run. Same reason Half-Life was called a pseudo-lore run. Oh, why did I come up with that term? No real reason. It just occurred to me immediately. It is some... What other term could I utilize? It is a half lore run, a not quite lore run, a maybe lore run, a faux lore run. Nah, let's just go with pseudo. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with dungeon design from Twilight Princess, which then moves us forward a bit. Let's skip some of the Gaiden games. I'm just going to go ahead and say I would pull the combat from Breath of the Wild. I think Breath of the Wild is definitely the best and most interesting combat of the franchise to me personally. Which leads me to the last game I wanted to mention, which is, of course, Link Between Worlds. I would pull the item approach in Link Between Worlds. So for those of you not aware, I really, really enjoy how Link Between Worlds did that. The idea of going out and saying, okay, here's the dungeon, but you have to have the item to even start doing the dungeon. It really made for a fascinating aspect of dungeon design, which they've basically never really done before. So, yes, without weapon degradation. God, no, that's not coming in. But for those of you who don't understand what I mean, almost every Zelda dungeon can be spliced into two. Each of these halves is, like, before you get the item from the dungeon, after you get the item from the dungeon. And this has informed the dungeon design of almost every Zelda game, right? So, for the before part... It's basically merged with Link Between Worlds because now the whole dungeon is designed to have the item you get in the dungeon because of the rented thing. Oh. See you, kiddo. Just leave it on the bed. It's okay. Okay. Thank you, little one. Be good. So, I liked that. I thought that was a very innovative way to kind of switch up the formula, and I thought it made for some really awesome dungeon design. So merge the dungeon design of Twilight Princess with the fact that you can get the items before you even go to the dungeon, and I think that would make for some fascinating design. And I probably missed some Zeldas in there. Like, I don't know what I want. I want the motion controls from Skyward Sword. No. Actually, if anything I would pick from Skyward Sword, it would either be the characterization, which Skyward Sword actually did have a fairly large amount of, or the dungeon design, which Skyward Sword actually did a really large amount of awesomeness in. But anyways, so that's my answer to that question. Don't worry, we have more Tumblr questions. I know that's all you care about. If I can get a proper timestamp here. How many of you care about Bladerunner? Oh, I agree, Tara Brentford. I agree. Guys, I'm not going to start with the big stuff. I'm going to end with the big stuff. I understand how to market, unlike Blizzard. So the question here is basically, let's assume you have a blank check, okay? Time is not a consideration. Budget is not a consideration. So you can do a Blade Runner game. What do you make? And the actual specific question is, if you had unlimited resources and freedom to make a game in the Blade Runner universe, what would you make? Open world, linear, semi-open, action, RPG, turn-based, real-time, etc. Just saying, Justin. Hey, and Bethesda, that's another good example. Let's go ahead and just mention that Fallout 76 screwed up yet again this week, and let's just move on. Like, it's getting ridiculous at this point. It stopped being fun to bash Bethesda. It's just getting sad. Vampire is funded and one of the most requested premiere runs right now. Seriously, it's one of the only orange colors we have. Yeah, no kidding, Hazardous. I see a lot of people seeing the same kind of general thing. I have to admit, the idea of kind of a cyberpunky game, a kind of Deus Ex-y kind of game. I mean, I'm one of those weirdos who really, really liked Mankind Divided, and being able to play a game like that, or Human Revolution, within Bladerunner sounds awesome to me, admittedly. Yeah, I haven't even thought about story. Although, if I'm being 100% honest, I kind of like the idea of shifting story perspectives while following a singular plot thread. Basically, probably follow the life of a single... Oh god, I suddenly can't think what they're called. The synths. Follow the life of a single synth as it goes through, undergoes droid effect and slowly becomes aware and starts trying to act and blah blah blah. Except you don't play as the synth until the replicant. Thank you. You don't play as the replicant until the very end. You start off playing as the people, let's say at the corporate side of things, and then you switch to the people probably at the actual studying side of things. Then you switch to the people who are trying to capture it, the actual Blade Runners. And then maybe one more switch where you play as the evil corporate bastards who are trying to get it for their own purposes. And then the final section we played as the replicant itself. Just food for thought as far as story. Probably Pave Maniac? I literally don't even remember, to be completely honest with you. I get you, Aethel. A action RPG with an intro where you can choose as what you play as. That's interesting. Would I keep it on Earth? I kind of leaning towards yes, mostly because most of what we know about Blade Runner is from Earth. Now, we know, yes, that Blade Runner was intended to be a multi-movie setting with bleed over into the outer world colonies and all that fun stuff, but we've basically never seen anything other than Earth, and I think we should stick with that, personally. I think that in order to maintain the proper Blade Runner feel, it should be there on Earth with the cyberpunk doom. My opinion. Maybe have like a brief bit where you go up or you go out, but the majority of the game focused on planet Earth. I have to admit I'm torn on the specifics of the game design, though. Maybe maybe like a typical Fallout / Bethesda thing, except actually made well, where you have first/third person perspective RPG type. Oh, like that Outer Worlds game that you've probably never heard of. Let's not talk about that. Oh, that would be horrible, Leander. Mean, kind of interesting, but horrible. Yeah, true enough, Adel. And of course the Alien series. So that's basically my answer to that question. Let's go ahead and move on to our next point here. So let's start covering some news. Now, I've decided after some thought, I want to start with the bad, because that's my usual approach. Start with the bad, get to the good. Is that cool with everyone? Oh, that would be horrifying, Seraphim. Sounds cool, though. I like that idea. So let's start with the bad. I need different music for this. Hang on. I need a different... I have a playlist for this kind of a thing. How many of you have heard me rail about mobile games before? Now, a lot of people have the mistaken impression that I am anti-mobile games, and that's not actually true any more than I am anti-corporate. In fact, I am actually anti the same thing in both cases. I am anti-greed. Now, and that's the problem. Mobile gaming is just like DLC, is just like expansions, is just like a lot of other concepts that aren't bad in and of themselves. They are just being horrifically abused by people who are greedy, money-sucking bastards who should probably jump into a giant pit. Getting some chasm emotes really quick. Now, that being said, I got two actual news tidbits this week, which are basically connected with each other, and I just wanted to share them with you because this kind of kicked off an entire wave of depression that's stuck with me this entire week. I'm not even kidding about this. So first of all, how many of you have heard of Fire Emblem Heroes? It's the mobile Fire Emblem game. Not terrible. I mean, it's kind of simplistic, and the storyline is not interesting, at least in my opinion. But it was just kind of, I mean, it's there, sure. Anybody who does not know the answer to this, how much money do you think Fire Emblem Heroes generated in the month of November? Now, this is where this is getting funny. Before I actually tell you the number, the news report was reporting how the game was on a downturn because it made less money in November than it has made in recent memory. Its overall profits have been going down, so November was a low month for it, okay? $13.8 million. Now, that's a lot of money, even at a corporate level, especially for a game that requires as relatively little maintenance and development time as Fire Emblem Hero does. 13.8 million was down in sales for them. Now, having said that, that's the first point. The second point is, I gotta be honest, Fire Emblem Heroes isn't that bad as far as mobile games. Oh, Jesus Christ. Hi, Shadow Machine. Thank you very, very much for the heart attack. Was not ready for that at all. Oh my god, thank you, Shadow Machine. Thank you. Year and a half. Holy crap. What would you like to put that towards? So Fire Emblem Heroes isn't that bad of a mobile game, really. Its gacha is over in the corner. It's not really that relevant. And its difficulty curve is relatively well designed. Such that it doesn't mandate, it doesn't basically force you to shove money. I mean, there's so many worse mobile games than Fire Emblem Heroes. Like, there are. I've played them myself. I've shown you some on camera. Which leads me to Final Fantasy XV, A New Empire. Pokemon, you got it, Shadow Machine. Thank you again. How many of you know what Final Fantasy XV, A New Empire is? Before I go any further. Final Fantasy XV, A New Empire. Oh, Jesus! Okay. Wow. Distracted me here. Thank you very, very much, Arm Devil. Much appreciated. What would you like to put that towards? So, yeah. Let me explain something for you on the off chance you don't know. For those of you who already know about this, please forgive me. But I want to make sure that people fully 100% understand why this pisses me off so much. So there's a lot of mobile games which are skins of each other. This is so normal as to be standard operating policy. It is actually considered normal to literally for a company to go out and basically buy a template and use that template and reskin it, literally, as in just switch around the graphics and push that out as a new mobile game. Now, there's several, obviously, that follow this overall formula. You know, there's your typical Connect 3, and there's a there's the Tapper games. There's Huthor. Putting it towards Thronebreaker. Thank you very, very much, Thronebreaker. Yeah, Clash of Clans meme. Yep, that's another one. So there's something that I don't know what the proper title for is, and frankly, I don't care because it's kind of a disgusting game. See, the way this works is this particular template is you have to build up your base. You usually have two resources, one which you can get in-game, one which you can get over time, or you can spend money on it. And you need to build up your base, and there's usually timers. There's usually, like, you have to wait a day, or you can spend money in order to progress. And you start doing missions, and there's usually some kind of a little bit of a campaign, a very threadbare story. And that's it. The main draw of these games is in this, because they are PvP-centric. Now, before we go any further, For those of you not aware, I am not anti-PvP. I just don't enjoy it personally. It's coffee. I don't actually want to go fight other players. But I understand that good PvP is a good thing and something that I think should be encouraged and used in gaming. Now, bad PvP is when you win because you have basically spent the most money. And that is pretty much what this formula does. And this is not exaggeration. This is not presumption. This is not speculation. This is hard, proven, long since proven, definable fact. That these type of games are pure on pay to win. And the only way to stay ahead is to continue to shuffle money into the system in order to keep yourself up to date with the right buildings and the right units, because you're going to be attacked by other players constantly, and you're going to be attacking other players constantly. Make sense? That's the meat of the game. Now, there's other things that make this even worse. Like, I could go into detail about how screwed up this pay-to-win base-building PvP game is. But it's crap, is what I'm trying to say. Having said all of that, FF15 is a reskin of that. Now, I want to stress this, because we could use the term reskin loosely, but I am saying this with the most literal possible connotations. How literally? So for a while there, some of you may know, I was actually trying out quite a few mobile games in the interests of curiosity, in the interests of being able to have an informed opinion on it. And they would play these little adverts, okay? One of the adverts for Mobile Strike, I want to say is the name of it, is like, here's your base. You've got a base building right here, and you've got these units that walk up and start attacking. And a little pop-up that says, oh my god, you have to mouse over here, and it shows you like how to play the game. You've got to mouse over here and click this, and it just does this over and over as you refuse to click it, because I didn't click it because I'm not a moron. So, I have seen 4 separate games use that exact same tutorial with a different skin on top of it, including FF15 A New Empire. When I say a reskin, I really mean it. It's the same game. Having now established my point, Final Fantasy XV, A New Empire, made $30 million last month. $1 million a day. Oh, and they also canceled some FF15 DLCs. That reduces my faith in humanity. No joke. This is the why bother principle in a nutshell. That would not, to be clear, that is not net. I want to make that 100% clear. That is total earnings, which usually revolves just around gross. That's what people purport publicly, because it's the most misleading figure that corporations can give. But I guarantee you that a lot of that 30 million is net. The budget for making this, again, and I think I've made my point very clearly, reskin is not high. Did I mention that Square Enix has just announced, just this last week, that they're making a new mobile game? I am dead serious, by the way. It's called, where is it? Final Fantasy War of the Visions. I've forgotten the numbers at this point, but I think we're up to 15 or so active mobile games that Square Enix is maintaining at the same time. It's 14 or 15. It's in the teens, I know that. Because I'm pretty sure we were at 13. Oh yeah, by the way, I finally decided to quit Opera Omnia last night, actually. That's kind of unrelated. I beat Chapter 11 and I'm done with it. Where does all that profit go? Funnily enough, I've actually already answered that, Corrales. Yes, this is a spin-off of Exvius. That's correct. Which is still going. Exvius is actually doing a Kingdom Hearts 3 thing to help sponsor that. All the Bravest is no longer supported. I'm not counting that one, no. I actually have an anonymous source, who's going to remain that way. Not that I'm aware of, Adam Ciuta, that has worked in mobile gaming. And he and I had a fairly significant talk about this topic. and so here's what I'm hearing. Mobile developers don't want to make this crap. Let me run you through. And again, this is not exaggeration, and this is not hyperbole. This is admittedly second-hand information at this point. But so let's say I'm a mobile developer and I walk into the meeting room. And I make bacon because I love eating bacon. Thank you very, very much, Von Bacon Eater, as ever. I do very much appreciate those tier 1 subs. Would you like to put that towards anything? Well, yeah, that's kind of exactly where I'm getting with this Takoida, because he ran through me several meetings that he'd been through, where he would walk in and be like, hey, let's make something cool. And the response was, well, how much money is it going to make? Right? Well, I don't know. Well, what's the market study? And what's funny is, this is how this is seesaw effect in a nutshell. Because some crap, and let's just call it what it is, crap mobile games are the ones making the most money. So whenever anyone tries to make a new mobile game, they have to justify why they're making it, which means they need market studies, which means they're going to basically be able to prove financially that it will not make that much money, or that they will be unable to prove anything because there just isn't enough market data for, let's call it what it is, real mobile games. So instead, so what happens in these meetings is the managers and executives say, no, go work on your reskin. Sure, Von Bacon Eater. It's more to see interest from you guys, but I will put that towards getting Christmas presents from my niece then. Thank you. And you can see how this kind of just leans, because the more people don't do actual studies or types or development on, again, real mobile games. Thank you very, very much, the Core 404, as ever. Much appreciate those Twitch Prime subs. What would you like to put that towards? The more people don't do it, the more people don't do it. That's seesaw effect in a nutshell. You know? And so, by all accounts, mobile game developers hate this crap. You got it, Thakor. Happy holidays, Kevin. No, I like seesaw effect better. Think about it for a second. So you got the seesaw, right? And you've got a bunch of weight on this side, which means it's more likely to continue to go this way. That's what it means. Seesaw effect, it's on my website. Oh my god. Thank you very, very much, D. Smitham. Thank you very, very much, Nimrod3D. As ever, much appreciate those subs and those bits and those donations. Thank you, both of you. Would either of you like to put those towards anything in particular? Oh, you remembered, SJ. You gotta start with one question mark. Anyways, but yeah, so how do you even argue against this? I mean, I know how I would argue against this, but it's a very convoluted argument. Yeah, sure thing, Nimrod. 10. There we go. Got it down. How do you argue against this? How do you walk up to an executive and say, okay, I want money to make a real mobile game? Doesn't even matter what. Let's just call it that. I want to make a mobile game, the real. And the executive says, well, how much money is it going to make? How do you argue against that? how do you see? Oh, okay, I mean, it's not going to make the same money as those other things, but I think still make money. Oh, it's not going to make as much money though if we make a reskin. Maybe. The one and only argument, really, the purely financial, purely greedy, let's just call it what it is, argument that can be leveled here is the odds of us getting a piece of that pie is low. The problem is there is a counter-argument for that, and that counter-argument is something that I know, again, for certainty, has been actually leveled by money people when it comes to mobile game development. And that counter-argument is, well, yeah, but it doesn't actually cost that much to make the game. So, it's basically a low-risk, high-reward scenario, effectively. It probably will not actually win. You know, you're probably not going to win that lottery money. But it doesn't cost you much to put in the $2 to win the lottery, right? And of course, try telling that to the people who actually make decisions on publicly traded companies, aka the investors, most of whom's entire job is investing. Because if you ever sit down and look at investment data on who owns what when it comes to publicly traded companies, most of the ownership is from companies that buy stock. That's what they do. That's their job. That's all they care about. That they are investment firms. And an investment firm only cares about one thing, not profit, but an ever-increasing problem. This is the problem of the quarterly return I've referred to so many times. Thus, the majority of decisions are being made by people who want ever-increasing profit, at least when it comes to publicly traded companies. Yeah, exactly, Mike. When you think 500 million is underperforming, you're insane. Now, what Takoida says is the problem. What Takoida says is the problem, because the moment you decide to start cutting off your other projects in favor of mobile projects, that's when things become a problem. And I mean, that's an easy thing to argue against. And I will give Square credit where credit's due, because Square is still making non-mobile games. I mean, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's one of the most fundamentally basic concepts of human existence, never mind economics. So that's the bad. Yeah, Kevin. People who own stock, at least when it comes to publicly traded companies, basically have a say in just about any major company decision. I actually know quite a few people personally who get letters on a regular basis saying, here's something we're voting on for the company. What is your vote? Because they own stock in it. The problem is they own like 1,000 shares of stock. Or 100 shares of stock. The people who make these decisions own like 2% of these companies, which is in the tens of thousands of shares. And that's the investment firm. So they're the ones basically actually making the decisions. Make sense? So, does it really hurt the company? That's an interesting question. How do you define the company? I mean, I know that sounds like a strange question. And no spoilers, Death Trinish. We're already doing a premiere run of Anthem sometime, so. Well, that's another thing, Kevin. A lot of people own stock and have no idea about anything. You remember, I actually pointed this out on a Loreweek. You remember the stockholder at a Nintendo stockholder meeting who basically said, "Why are we still making video games?" You remember that one? At a Nintendo stockholder meeting. Yeah. Anywho, I swear I have news that's not depressing this week. It's just, this hit me just right across the head. I gotta be completely honest. That was just discouraging. By the way, Tabata has already announced his new company. He's calling it JP Games. They're already working on their next game, whatever it's going to be. Which probably means they've already kind of been in the movement for this for some time, so make that what you will. What was the news that triggered this? Final Fantasy 15, A New Empire, made $30 million last month. Which, again, just to make this very clear, obviously that's a lot of money to you and me. I could live comfortably for the entire rest of my life and for my entire family on $30 million. But 30 million is still a lot of money even at a company level. That is still a large budget in a company level. Let's talk about Epic Games. Let's move on to something more positive, or at least theoretically more positive. How many even know what I'm talking about here? Yes, I do remember that, Pico. Epic Games has put out their own gaming store, basically. Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it, Tigzar? So yeah, Epic Games is making their own competitor to Steam. Now, I'm not sure what I think about this, to be completely honest with you. I'm one of those people who very famously bashed Origin because Origin was stupid, and I actually stand by that statement. Now, good old games, well, that's decent because that's more or less an actual competitor when it comes to Steam. So, oh yeah, Discord has one too, I guess, and I guess Amazon/Twitch have their own as well. The one and only thing that makes Epic Games' one actually interesting is the fact that they're doing a different split when it comes to developer share. Now, for those of you who know where Steam has recently, within the last month, I believe at this point, shifted how much of the profit they take from 20% down to 15%, I want to say. Whereas Epic Games is going to be taking 12% instead of however much they're making. And so, yeah, several games are already trying to jump Steam ship in order to go to Epic's game because they'll get a larger portion of the pie, theoretically speaking. Now, whether that pie will be larger or smaller is, of course, a matter for debate and speculation, because who knows? I admit personally that there are several games that I don't really want to play and don't care about playing because they're not on Steam. Fallout 76. But, that being stated, I'm not sure what I think about this, because I do agree that competition is good. I really do. Because in an ideal world, competition would not be necessary. No, seriously, it wouldn't. In an ideal world, one company providing all of such would be fine because they would want to put out the best product to make sure they get the best return on investment. Unfortunately, what usually happens instead is some idiot somewhere along the line says, hey, why don't we get greedier? And then they decide to push the envelope and push the envelope and push the envelope, and then we have the coal barons, you know? So, because people are stupid, individuals are stupid, it's nice to have some competition. I do think we're getting to the point where I'm not sure how... I'm not really sure how much is too much competition, how much is too little competition. I have to admit that personally, I do not want more gaming stores on my computer, just because I already have like 5, I think, at this point. Which I don't want, you know? It's actually a little bit irritating to have to launch this, to launch this, to launch this. Ubisoft, excuse me. But we'll see what actually comes of it. I can tell you one thing. The reason they're doing this 88-12 split, very specifically and very directly, is because they're trying to look at Steam and say, hey, we're taking less money than them. In other words, this is them deliberately trying to pull in people from Steam or people who would otherwise go to Steam. A fairly smart move on their part, I'll admit. As opposed to, for example, well, our games are only going to be on our service from now on. Which was not a smart move. Yeah, no kidding, Mega. So this is, I'm kind of, this is why I wanted to talk about this one, because I'm of a split mind on this one, no pun intended. This is, in my opinion, both a good and a bad thing. How many do I, hang on, let's see. So I've got Steam, I've got GOG, I've got Origin, I've got Uplay. I technically have Discord, but I don't really count that. I'm going to have the Bethesda launcher at some point. So yeah, I think we're actually up to 6 prior to Epic Games being a thing. Oh, I know, Aethel. Humble Bundle? No, I do all that through Steam. Yeah. Anyways. I wasn't even counting Battle.net. I suppose if we count Battle.net, that pushes us up to 7. I don't really play anything on Battle.net anymore. Anyways, Marvel Alliance 3 got announced, too. It's another one I want to talk about briefly here. How many of you guys were really... How many of you guys liked Marvel Alliance back in the day? No one? Yeah, for Switch, too. Ultimate Alliance 3, which looks legitimately good, actually. I mean, if you like Skyrim, it's still Skyrim, Kevin. That's my advice on that one. Yeah, that's what I'm not sure about next time. I heard that rumor, too. I wasn't able to confirm or deny it, so I don't know what's going on with that one. It does look like it's fun. I have to admit, I wish it was not only on the Switch, because I'm anti-exclusive, and I get a lot of flack for that, but it's still my opinion. But that being said, I am happy it's on the Switch, because it's on the Switch, and therefore I'm happy that it's on the Switch. QED, as they say. But one of the things I like, though, is it makes a fairly large amount of sense for it to be on the Switch first. Again, I do think it should be on other consoles, other PC stuff, but I think Switch is a good move for that, because this right here is a very good party game thing. And I don't know about you guys, but all of my fond memories of playing the Marvel Alliance games were I was sitting right next to my friend playing it with him, right? So, playing that on this, yeah, duh, right? This is already such a duh multiplayer, local multiplayer co-op thing. Oh, I can't wait, Hazardous. I can't wait. The voice is it not showing up? Hang on. Oh God, it isn't. Oh, that's weird. Look at that. Behold. Let's pull up the red one. There you go. As I was saying. Oh, now you can't see it because now I'm losing frames because Comcast is awful. I've gotten a lot of flack for that opinion, Lurker. So, I was going to say something else about this. Oh, right. Mortal Kombat, that's the other one. Also coming out on Switch. Now, I hope it's not just on Switch. I really do. Like, we got a very brief trailer, and it's like, on Switch. Exclusive world premiere. We got a lot of cringe at the Game Awards, didn't we? I suppose that's to be expected. It's okay. We got some awesome moments, too. Mortal Kombat, right. Am I the only one who isn't excited? I mean, I don't want to sound, like, put upon or whatever, but I was not really enthused about the Mortal Kombat 11 trailer. And I want other people's opinions for that. Now, first of all, let me explain my thoughts here. So, first of all, I've actually been a pseudo-fan of the Mortal Kombat series for a while. I really enjoyed Mortal Kombat 2, and I liked Mortal Kombat 3. And then I have played every Mortal Kombat since then, but those were the two that I really liked. And actually, that's not true. I didn't play the most recent one, which I believe was 10, because 10 was too much for me. You know what I mean? Now, maybe you don't know what I mean. I know. The whole appeal of Mortal Kombat is the violence. But in my opinion, there's a difference between violence and... And I think Mortal Kombat 10 went too much into the... My opinion. And so I didn't get into 10. I didn't even try it. So then 11 gets announced. Now, it does look a little bit less than 10 did. But it also... So I'm like, okay, that's cool. That sounds all right. Now, for those of you who wonder, I was actually basically on Guido's show, on his channel being streamed. So I was live at the time, so I had the Game Awards muted. So I was just watching it, I was like, okay, I'm kind of with it. I mean, it looks a little bit weird. Well, Mortal Kombat, yes, Mortal Kombat is about cartoon violence, Micromani. You just hit the nail on the head there. Mortal Kombat 10 was not cartoon violence. Mortal Kombat 10 was... And so visually, I was like, all right, I'm curious enough, especially after they reset the timeline. Yes, I've been following the lore of Mortal Kombat 2 as well. But after they reset the timeline, I'm like, okay, I'm curious where they're going with this. Then I actually listened to it and actually played it with the sound on. So I'm probably going to pass on that one. No, I'm kidding. We'll see. We'll see. Whatever. That's coming out on Switch, which I only bring up because, for those of you not aware, the lore of Mortal Kombat is... Anyways, so what I want to talk about here is how I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Now, I'm biased. I'm going to admit this fully, 100%. I'm going to admit I am biased. And the reason I'm biased is this right here. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. These controllers are amazing. They're detachable from each other, and they're remote. This by itself makes these amazing for me to use. This is such a boon to my gaming career, I can't put it into words. I've talked about that before. So I really want everything possible on the Switch so I can play it in a comfortable, awesome fashion. But I find myself wondering if it's legitimately a good thing how many games are gravitating towards the Switch. Because it's a lot. And if you're paying attention, it's a slowly increasing amount, too. The Switch is getting more and more games that otherwise wouldn't be on a Nintendo console. More and more games that are being exclusive on the Switch. More and more games from third-party developers and second-party developers. And it's just kind of making me go, huh. Because again, I'm kind of anti-exclusive, but at the same time, I also want all these things on the Switch. I have actually gone out of my way to buy a few games on the Switch that I don't really have a plan to play, specifically because I actually want more games to be on the Switch. And I do. I'm telling you right now, when Stellaris comes out on Switch... Anyways. So yeah, I don't know. This feels like a strange situation because on paper, I should be against this. And all I can think is, yes, more stuff on the Switch. Now, what Aethel says is a valid point. Regardless of your opinions on the Switch or exclusivity, I do like the fact that this is encouraging developers to work on good games rather than good graphics. My opinion. Now, we've already kind of started doing that. That's not really a new thing, but it is nice to say that's coming, you know, that's a trend that is continuing. And I do think that that's a good thing, in my opinion. I do think that people should stop spending ludicrous amounts of money on making sure that everyone's skin is being rendered properly. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's not a made-up thing. Skin is actually really hard to render for a specific reason. Stellaris is not on the Switch yet, Von Bacon Eater. But considering Paradox has started pushing things onto the Switch, and we've already got a 4X game on the Switch... I'm just saying, it is a lot more likely than it was a few months ago. Anyways. So, yeah, like I said, I'm not sure what I think of this whole thing. It's hard to be objective on this one, because I want an enormous amount of games on the Switch. If anything, my biggest complaint about the Switch, and this is not a joke, is that there's too many games that aren't on it. And I'm not kidding. Where the hell's the Zeldas? Where the hell are the Zeldas on the Switch? Right? Where's the collections of the Final Fantasies? Although that's coming out soon. Where's all the NES stuff? Where's all the SNES stuff? And don't point me to that stupid online store. Anyways, let's move on. Let's do this next. How many of you like New Vegas here? Let's switch playlists. Let's finally switch playlists back to something better. How many of you like New Vegas? I'm going to Vegas in about a week and a half now. I like Fallout 3 and New Vegas. I know, heresy. It's funny because liking Fallout 3 and liking New Vegas means I'm hated by basically everyone. It's really funny. Outer Worlds has been made by the same relative development crew and a lot of the core development crew from Obsidian. Probably in part due to some of the deal they've made with Microsoft, but considering they've already been in development with this game for 2 years, and it's not coming out for a few months, how much of that is, in fact, debatable? The... It looks good. Let's just start with that. It is, in basically every way that matters, New Vegas 2. They have... God, where do I even begin? They've got something that isn't VATS. They've got something that isn't a special system. They've got something that isn't a skill system. They've got something that isn't a party companion menu with its own party companion story arcs. They've got something that isn't a faction system. I mean, you get my point, right? It's basically... And I have to actually applaud the developers on this, because to be completely blunt, this is actually... This is actually exactly what I would do in their position. I want to make a new Fallout game. Well, the rights are owned by these other people. But I really want to make a new Fallout game. Well, but the rights are owned by these other people. Okay. Can we get those rights? Can we get a licensing agreement? No? Screw it. Let's make a new Fallout game. Well, we can't. Sure we can. All we have to do is make our own thing, don't we? That's exactly what they did. It's set on an outer world, off in the distant rim, where the corporations have taken just about every piece of the pie that they can, leading to a lot of factionalization, a lot of individual groups, a lot of bandits, a lot of raiders, a lot of corporations. Yeah. You know? Yeah, the fact that this is releasing right after Fallout 76 is probably going to boost its sales. Let's just be 100% honest about that one. Yeah, this is a proper legalese screw you. It really is. This is why I say this is kind of brilliant in its own right. And regardless of all the other things, it does look like a good game. For those of you not aware, they've actually already released a couple of gameplay analyses things and gameplay, just a bit of scripted gameplay. And yes, there's no romance, which is very important. The gameplay looks legitimately interesting. I want to just toss a couple things that came to my mind immediately from looking at it. I mentioned the not VATS. They don't have VATS. Instead, they have a system which is basically an ability that's built into the lore where you can slow down time for a moment. And as you slow down time, you can, of course, be more specific about your aiming, and you can get more damage out when you do the time slow. It's not VATS. I also like how they're doing something that, to be blunt, I don't think has ever really been done well. And that's the fact that they have party members who seem to actually frickin' matter when it comes to gameplay. Now, I stress the way I say that because, obviously, companions were a thing in Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4. But for the most part, they were there for the story. Let's just be honest. They were not particularly useful in combat. From what I saw, now granted, this is scripted. This is a fully scripted sequence, but from what I saw, it looks like they will actually be useful when it comes to combat. That'll be nice because, in my opinion, that's a rarity. It would be really nice if you could set up their AI with Gambit-type system, but, I mean, whatever. I think about that about a lot of different games. Go watch the gameplay videos. Ignore me. Now, can you switch between party members? No. You play a nameless, faceless, voiceless party. By the way, you're not voice acted. I feel like that was a deliberate, to people. But, so you're not voice acted. You do have a decent amount of dialogue options, which I suppose is the next thing I should mention. You can play dumb. And I know this is such a stupid thing to mention, but everyone I've brought this up to has responded identically, which is sweet, or at the very least, cool. Because, for those of you not aware, the option to just play dumb in these is something that hasn't been in for quite some time, really. Like, for example, New Vegas had a few dumb options. Fallout 3 and I think 4 had a few dumb options. But for the most part, it was just a side thing. Here, you could in almost every dialogue they showed, there was a dumb option. There's also skills, per your usual. The ability to lie, the ability to try and deceive people in a skill chance thing. That the usual sort of thing like that. I say playing dumb. What I mean by that is we are playing dumb. I should be more clear with my terminology. Because you can play someone with an int of 1, basically, is what I'm trying to get across. Like you could in Arcanum. That's actually probably the last game I can think of, or Arcanum if you prefer. That's probably the last game I can think of that allowed you to play as a dumb character. You can definitely be snarky. That's absolutely a thing. There's a lot of ways. Yes, in fact, in the gameplay they showed, there was actually one conversation boss that they already showed, so that's nice. Oh yes, there's also humor. There's definitely some humor in this game. That's going to be hit or miss because that's how humor works. I just hope they don't go to the severity of, say, Divinity Original Sin 1, because that was a little bit too much in my opinion. We'll see. That being said, I saw several news sites and several commenters who were exposed to the combat who all said basically the same thing. And it's good to see Obsidian making a bigger type of game, a more AAA game, a better game. It's good to see them still wanting to make this type of game, a full 3D game. It's good to see them try to... Several people all made the same type of comment, which was basically, oh, look, Obsidian's making a real game now. That bothered me a little bit. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of Pillars of Eternity, I'll admit that. But the idea of calling PoE or PoE 2, or Tyranny, that's a really good example, not a full game or not a real game, just kind of makes me go, what? Did you play that? Now, we all know that CRPGs are a bit of a niche market. We can all accept and admit that. It's not as large of a market as other people. But the very idea that this is now more of a game than PoE or PoE 2 or Tyranny or whatever is just kind of... What? What is wrong with you? Speaking as someone who didn't even like PoE 1 that much, I still would call that a real game. A full game. Anyways. I mean, Christ, people. Anyways, regardless of people being stupid, I am excited. It's also coming out next year. Good way to announce it, by the way. As I've said before, the 6-month to a year announcement time is probably the most ideal time to fit most different people and most different perspectives. And so the fact that this game is coming out next year, yeah, I'm with it. Did they say no microtransactions? I don't know, actually. I have no information on that, positive or negative. How long have they been working on this game? According to them, about 2 years to date. Which would probably make it relatively a AA thing. So. I don't agree with you, Eingrod, because I was listening to tone. And tone says a lot, regardless of words. So I'm just going to have to flat disagree with you on that one. And by the way, when I say I was listening to tone, these were vocal things. These are people talking, not just me reading into text. Although I do read into text too, but that's an unrelated topic. Yeah, wow, 2019 does look like it's going to be an interesting year for gaming, that's for certain. I hope I will actually be done with my YouTube stuff by then so we can get back to streaming. How many of you care about Dragon Age? Dragon Age Origin is, to this very day, one of my favorite games of all time. Having replayed it somewhat recently for the rumination has only improved my impression of it. It is a really, really good game, in my opinion. What in the world? And I actually like Dragon Age 2, which is probably makes me one of the weirdos. Now, I had to do a little research for this one. Because earlier in the week, before the Game Awards showed up, they mentioned that Dragon Age 4 would not come out for another 3 years. And that was something that a lot of sites all repeated. Many sites were repeating that same bit of information. But I was trying to backtrack through the sources, and I couldn't find a definitive source for that information. The closest thing they had was a quote from one of the developers who was talking about Dragon Age, but he never mentioned a delay or a year thing. And then instead they just say, sources inside say Dragon Age 4 is 3 years out. No actual source is cited, if you understand my meaning. I find that interesting, because I myself mentioned that when it came to the fact that they mentioned they would have a Dragon Age-related announcement this month. So anyways, either this is another Elder Scrolls 6, this game isn't coming out for years, which really wouldn't surprise me, because for some goddamn reason, game companies still seem to think they need to announce things years, plural, in advance, which drives me batty. But regardless, they did actually go ahead and show the teaser trailer for Dragon Age 4. Credit where credit is due. There's actually a lot of density to this trailer. Legitimately. In fact, there's so much density that I'm going to actually do this with you.
So, you found me at last. I suspect you have questions.
Now, like any good teaser, that does exactly what it needs to. It lets you know that it's in production, and it teases you. But what I love most about that is they do actually showcase, again, a large amount of information here. What we get at the beginning... Skip ahead a little bit here. So first we have a long rotating shot of this idol. I'm just going to go ahead and explain some of this to you, because there's two pieces to this statue, whatever the hell it is, right? There's a figure that's not this one. This figure right here. Now, helmet, hair, slightly pointed ears, lots of debating about who or what this thing is. I've heard so many different theories about what this figure is. The other figure is the one we just showcased earlier, which is the more skeletal figure, which, as you can see, if you skip ahead here, is actually clinging around the waist of the larger figure. You see it? Like, you can't see my mouse. If you look at the top end, you can actually see what I'm talking about. You can see the face just kind of looking up towards the sky, and you can see the skeletal creature kind of clinging to it around the waist. There's a lot of different possibilities about what each of these creatures are, but neither of those two things are actually all that relevant, as weird as that may sound, at least to me, because what's really relevant is this stuff towards the bottom. Now, that is very clearly red lyrium. Someone earlier said in chat that this was made for fans of Dragon Age. I absolutely agree. Only a Dragon Age fan will care about the details put into this. Again, lots of density. Because obviously this looks like red lyrium down here, but more to the point, pay attention during this section. As you're watching, the red lyrium is spreading. Do you see that? Which, again, makes it very, very clear that this isn't just some kind of ruby or something. This is actually infesting it like red lyrium does. So, definitely red lyrium without question. Then we see this in typical Dragon Age fashion, and as usual, they have designed the hell out of this picture. Oop, hang on. Skip just a little bit back here. There we go. You see that beauty? There's actually a lot to unpack here, believe it or not. It kind of is out of this, yes. You can see 7 symbols surrounding this thing on the left side. You see that? 2 of them are lit up. 5 are not. Now, the number 7 isn't super relevant when it comes to this series, except in one way, and that's the fact that there were 7 of the original the old gods, the dragons, of which 5 have since been defeated and stopped, leaving 2. Now, that's interesting. That's pretty 1-to-1. What's more interesting, though, is if you pay very close attention, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but if you look at the symbol that's on the 2 remaining things there, it's an 8-point star. Now, that 8-point star, and I'm sorry I don't have the picture relevant for you right here, but the 8-point star is something that is used visually as shorthand for the Titans. Now, we don't know much about the Titans, and that's part of the problem, because it's hard to speculate on something that, has basically just been introduced and we barely know anything about. But again, that is very clearly the same symbol, and this kind of symbology is not being done accidentally, if you know what I mean. So that is clearly trying to indicate that Titans are relevant to those 2 remaining spokes, whatever those actually mean. Now, as was pointed out, obviously, one of those spokes is not as lit as the other one. And, well, let's be honest, it would kind of make sense to activate 2 blights at the same time. Not only would that make a degree of sense based on what Solus's actor... Oh, by the way, spoilers for Dragon Age Inquisition, because I can't talk about this without spoiling Inquisition, so this is your last chance to avoid Inquisition spoilers. But anyways, it would make sense for him to be pushing that. It would also be a good way to escalate the overall presentation of a threat. Then we have the creature on the left. Now, the one on the right is Solus. Let's just make that very clear. That picture is almost 1-to-1 for a similar picture with the 3 eyes and the same pose and everything that's actually in Dragon Age Inquisition, which is representative of him, the Dread Wolf. So that's Solus on the right. Who the hell is that on the left? Because that's interesting if you think about it. I know a lot of people, including me, I'll own up to this, at first thought that was Solus on the left, but the problem is, if you actually look at the details, that doesn't line up. First of all, Solus doesn't actually wear clothes like that, if we were to start. But second, and more importantly, the one on the left has hair. Whoops. Oh, here we go. Ah, perfect. So you see this? There's the Titan imagery I just mentioned, right there in the middle, the 8-spoke thing. I was just talking about that. That's from Corrales here. Thank you for the image. Boop. So, who the hell is the one on the left? Solus doesn't have hair. Solus doesn't look like that in general. I have to admit, I'm not sure who that is on the left. And that's the thing that really has my mind going on this. Because everything else in this is very easy to look at and say, okay, well, that's representative of the Blights, that's representative of the Red Lyrium, infecting the world, that's probably representative of Andraste, let's just be honest. That's, Solus on the right there, duh. And yes, by the way, it's kind of easier to see earlier. Let's see the closest in we could get there. You can see the ears on the elf on the left here are clearly pointed, definitely an elf. However it is, also has this red circle around them. And again, you're probably thinking, Laura, you're reading too much into this. You don't understand. For all of the many flaws that Dragon Age has, these mural pictures they make, they design very specifically. Everything they do with these is deliberate. This is very true, historically speaking. So, whoever that is on the left is in fire, has a red orb either behind them or around them, is an elf with hair, and is obviously in their pose that's obviously in a I'm trying to hold back or stop something. Is it trying to stop the Blights? Is it trying to stop the spread of Valyrium? Is it trying to stop Solus? I have only questions with that. Can't be the Inquisitor, it has 2 arms. That's true. If the left one is Solus, that would be a past Solus or something like that. I actually had that same thought, too. Oh, yeah, and it's probably a mage because he's got a staff. And in this setting, staff is pretty much shorthand for mage. It could be the new player character. That's very true. That's actually the most common theory I've seen personally, is that is who we will be playing in the next one. Oh, yeah, that brings me to another point. When Solus talks in this trailer, he says... hang on.
Found me at last. I suspect you have questions.
That right there implies that whoever is seeking Solus knew who he was before they were seeking him, obviously was seeking him, and has been seeking him for some time. Which leads to another big question. Who the hell has been looking for Solus? Not a lot of people know about the soulless problem from the end of Trespasser. I'll try and get you as close up of the staff as I can, probably right about here. It could also be fourth wall breaking. That's entirely possible. In that case, it would literally be referring to the player looking for solace. My best guess, honestly, I think that... So let's examine a couple of facts really quick. For those of you not aware, by the time of Dragon Age 4, 2 of the 3 previous protagonists are possible to have died. Now, if you don't understand the significance of that, remember that they always keep in mind what choices can be made in previous Dragon Age games when they consider the writing of future ones. This has actually been one of the biggest problems when it comes to Awakening and 2 and Inquisition, because an inordinate amount of characters could have died in the previous games. I've talked about this before. So the Warden could be dead, and Hawk could be dead. They could also both be alive, but based on that, it seems very likely that they're deliberately trying to move them in a direction away from the overall story. However, I noticed that actually too, Dakota. However, there's one other thing that's relevant here, and I want to bring this up. The Inquisitor from Inquisition cannot die. It is not an option. Now, that's very interesting to me, because we're getting a little bit into macro analysis here, but what I see from that is people trying to set pieces up, so, for lack of a better way to put it, it's easier to do sequels. As I've mentioned so many times before, Dragon Age Origins was not written with sequels in mind. That's why there's so many options available in that game, and why you can basically completely screw over everyone. However, in Inquisition, they made sure that even though you do have choices in that game, for the most part, which characters live and don't live and how things proceed is not something up to the player. It's just something that happens, like the Inquisitor living, like I just mentioned. So my take is that the Inquisitor is still the head of whatever they are the head of, either an individual organization independently operating, an organization operating at the benevolence of the Chantry, depending on what we do with that, or an organization that, or the Inquisition itself is still going. But either way, the Inquisitor is still going and probably still in a position of power. To me, that means that we will be playing an agent of us, an agent of our Inquisitor back in Inquisition. Thus, we are then being sent to try and figure out what the hell is going on with this one. That's my take on it. And yeah, it was heavily implied in Trespasser that the Qunari Tevinter War is going to be a big backdrop of this one, which I really do hope, by the way. So yeah, I'm thinking they're trying to deal with this war situation, which is probably getting out of hand by this point, and we are an agent of said Inquisition. That's my take. It's also worth noting, if you think about it, that would give us the option to be basically whatever we want to, any race and any background. Because, well, if you think about it, how did we recruit people to the Inquisition, right? Like, we weren't limited by bounds of race or creed, were we? So, an agent of the Inquisition could be basically whatever. You follow? Yeah, that red lyrium is what scares me most about this image, by the way. I mean, I gotta be honest, red lyrium scares me in general. Should we be a Grey Warden again? I wouldn't mind if it's an option, but I don't think it should be mandatory. And I'm sure Darkspawn will be involved. I would be astonished if Darkspawn are not involved. The real problem, in my opinion, is that it's hard to properly speculate on that center wheel. So Takoida pointed out something out. I just realized chat isn't on screen. Takoida pointed something out that's worth noting. There's a bit of asymmetry to the design of the wheel, especially on the upper right side, which is more visible in this shot we've got right here. And you can actually see the cracks in the mural there, too, which is probably relevant as well. I don't know. If just looking at this, In blank paper mode, I would look at this and I would say that there is a deeper connection between the Titans and the Darkspawn that we haven't yet explored, because we know almost nothing about the Titans. But we do know that Titan blood, Titan life's essence, whatever you want to call that, is lyrium. We also know that red lyrium is Darkspawn, blight infested lyrium. So there is already an automatic connection between blights and Titans, even if it's only a passive connection or a distant one. It's entirely possible that this is going to imply that that connection is going to get closer. We've actually already done a lore run of Dragon Age. It's actually one of my favorite lore runs of the older ones. I actually don't know what you're seeing in that case, Takoida. Shoot! Takoida's saying there's something on the left with the painted-in panels under the Titan symbol things. And I'm apparently just blind, which is normal. Yeah, let's zoom ahead a little bit here. Who's going to destroy the world? It's me! Hi. What I find interesting, though, is based on the massive number of people who have abandoned what is currently called BioWare in order to go work at other companies, including the head writer. What we have left is what's basically a new and unproven team working on Dragon Age 4. I shouldn't say it that way. That's so unkind. What we have is a not Dragon Age team working on Dragon Age 4. There we go. That's more neutral. Now, that could be a great thing. There have been plenty of times, historically speaking, where new blood was brought in and they started working on a thing that they hadn't started working on and managed to bring some great stuff to it. I mean, my favorite go-to example for that is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. But at the same time, you understand why there's some lacking, trust in that, because, well, the whole Dragon Age team is basically gone at this point, So whatever is happening is basically a new take on Dragon Age, no matter what. And that could be good, and it could be awful. And of course it's under EA, and, well, let's be honest, most games made under the EA label tend to not be good. Just to be as blunt about that as I can. No, some of the people from DAI are working about it, yes. Patrick Weeks, that you just mentioned, thank you for the name, I didn't know his name. Yeah. Do I think Dragon Age 4 will be cancelled if Anthem tanks? Not really, but I also don't think Anthem will tank, to be completely honest with you. Also, given what happened to Andromeda, I'm surprised BioWare's still around. I really am. EA's usual policy would be to have shut down the studio and divested its resources at this point, after Andromeda. So... I don't know, Mike. I've heard several people theorize that these rings around the Blight Titan, Red Lyrium, Andraste thing was actually, indicative of the Veil, which could be a thing. I don't know. I really don't. There's a little bit too much paper design here, because there's just too much about Dragon Age lore we still don't know. I've talked about that during the Dragon Age lore run and how frustrating it is to try and speculate on things that are basically in a vacuum. We'll see. That's actually all I got for this one. And we're done. We have nothing else to talk about. No, I do have one last thing. This is actually a request from about 5 or so different people. I have no idea what the bars are. Like, there's too much of this is just hard to speculate on, really. The Blights. Qualitas, the Blights. Ahem.
This thing on? Hey, Miss Potts. If you find this recording, don't feel bad about this. Part of the journey is the end. Just for the record, being adrift in space with zero promise of rescue is more fun than it sounds. Food and water ran out 4 days ago. Oxygen will run out tomorrow morning. That'll be it. When I drift off, I will dream about you. It's always you.
Thanos did exactly what he said he was going to do. He wiped out 50% of all living creatures.
We lost. All of us. We lost friends. We lost family. We lost a part of ourselves. This is the fight of our lives.
This is going to work, Steve.
I know it is. Because I don't know what I'm going to do if it doesn't.
Is anyone home? This is Scott Lang. We met a few years ago at the airport in Germany. Got really big.
Is this an old message?
Ant-Man, I know you know that.
It's the front door.
That's me. Can you buzz me in?
Da-na-na-na. Also, it's coming out in April. That's the other news. There's actually a lot to unpack here, by the way. And it's literally impossible to talk about this without spoiling everything in the MCU up to this point, so spoilers for the entire MCU. This is a very well-designed teaser. Probably my only complaint is that the music gets a little bit generic towards, like the middle part around here. But this music over here is brilliant and sets the tone perfectly. First and foremost, the obvious symbolism of Tony Stark making his final statement, final testament to what's left of his suit. Probably cannibalized and repurposed specifically for this exact reason. And knowing Stark, I'm guessing he probably put additional power into this thing so that the suit would retain itself and be able to save this message for a really long time. In other words, he's not leaving this because he thinks someone will come out and rescue him. He's leaving this because at some point in time, there's a pretty good chance that someone will find his corpse floating through space, pick this thing up, and give it to her. So, also, I just want to say that I have always absolutely adored Robert Downey Jr.'s presentation as Tony Stark, and moments like this are why. Because there is such a wonderfully honest humanity about the way he says this. He is certainly given up, but there's no despair in his voice. He is very matter-of-fact about it. And that's funny because, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen plenty of people who just have that kind of tone when horrible things happen, right? Well, I've been stabbed in the chest and currently bleeding out, which means in a few minutes here I'm going to die, and that's the end of it. There's just this sort of frankness that comes across. And the way Tony talks here, you can tell that this is someone who has completely and utterly accepted, yeah, no, this is it. This is the end. Zero chance of rescue. Food and water have already run out. He's probably already tried everything. Everything that he could have already gone through. So this is the end. And he knows it. And that's another thing I want to comment on, because I've heard something said before, and I agree with this statement. The truly smart ones are cursed, because the truly smart understand how bad things are. So you can tell that Stark here understands just how bad this situation is. And yes, Nebula was there too. We'll talk about that in just a second. But what I love most is his final comment. Again, very human. So for those of you not aware, this is going to sound funny coming from me especially, but I've always liked this presentation of Stark and Potts being basically one true love. That they're actually a legitimately awesome couple and have been basically since Iron Man 1. This is in opposition to the comics where well, that's not true. Let's just put it as simply as possible. But I like his statement there. When I drift off, I'm going to be thinking about you. I'm always thinking about you. That's... yeah. So, he gives his message. Again, just, oh my God. And you can kind of see, again, visual acting as well, which is important to show as we're doing this without audio. You can tell that, as Takoida was pointing out in chat just a minute ago, he's not perfectly calm. He's not lucid. You could see how much he's, let's call him stretched, I think is the word I want to use for where he's at right now. I agree. Movie Tony is so much better. So much better than comic Tony. In all honesty, this man's performance and the presentation of him and Cap is one of the reasons the MCU really elevated for me personally back in the day and got me interested, because I never really liked Stark or Cap in the comics, with exceptions. Obviously, there's your occasional good stories, but the most part, it's like, eh. But these characters, anyways, moving on. So, then they do this. On the off chance that you forgot what happened last time, just to remind you, yes, no, that did actually happen. Now, this is actually important in its own right. This means he's hung up the armor. He's done. He's retired. He did it. Now, this is something I talked about when it came to our discussion about Infinity War. And it's kind of actually nice to see that I was basically right about this, at least as they're presenting it in this trailer. The idea that Thanos is done. Succeeded. And I behold a new sunrise, right? So he's hung up the armor, he's hung up the Warlord, he's done. He is retired. The one and only interesting thing here, and I know it's kind of hard to see, so I'm pausing it here so you can get a check there, but that is Thanos' left hand. And the gauntlet's still on it, and still cracked and scarred and broken. This is pure theory, but I'm thinking... Yeah, exactly, Rex. I'm thinking that he can't get it off, basically. That for whatever reason, that gauntlet is fused to him, or scarred with him, or become a part of him, or whatever. To me, that makes sense. That thing is now fused with him, and you can really see that there in that shot there. So, next thing we see, an empty Avengers lot. Now... I point that out because this is... yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Let me just say that it's a treat to be able to actually dissect a trailer. This is something I usually only get to do with Kingdom Hearts stuff, because most trailers don't bother to put details into them. They're just, here's the thing, action music, ta-da! But as you can see here, this place, yeah, it looks kind of unkempt. It looks like it hasn't really been kept... in some time, and it's basically empty. Which means two things. One, it's been a little bit since the snap, which is referred to in universe as the decimation, by the way. So it's been a little bit since the decimation. And number two, there's not a lot of people here. In fact, by all accounts, there are 2 people here. Three people here. Which we'll see in just a moment. There's number 1, there's number 2, and there's number 3. I was debating that, Rex. I was debating that. Have you already watched it? And how copy-wrongy is it? Are my questions in order? Now, this is kind of interesting and horrible, because obviously we see Scott, and his face is front and center. This is important, because again, you could tell this trailer was made for people who are already fans, which I always enjoy it when a trailer does that, by the way. Yes, I know the decimation would be 10%. I understand. Anyways, I'm not pointing out Scott there. I'm pointing out Shuri. Because Shuri is over there on the right. And that makes me very sad. I liked Shuri. She was awesome. She was one of my favorite characters in Black Panther. Anyways. So yeah, he's just kind of going through and noticing some dead people there. Actually, they're listed as missing, if you want to be 100% honest about that. Once again, empty hangar. Thor just hanging out. Now, this is interesting. This is where things get weird, because that is Nebula. And it's entirely possible she is on the ship with Stark. because Nebula and Stark were left on planet Doom, if you'll remember that. So, is she still on the ship with him? They actually choose their shots here very carefully, if you're paying attention. Because while there's some similar lighting, it's hard to say one for one that it's the same ship. There's nothing visually indicating that it is the same ship, so I'm not sure. It is entirely possible that it is. Nebula could certainly survive in space a lot longer than he could. And it actually would make a degree of logic and sense that they would try to escape together. Tony would be the one to die off because, he's a fleshy human. He would leave his message and basically just say, Nebula, please get this to Earth if you ever can. Goodbye. That kind of a thing. That would make sense. They also are very likely doing trailer trickery. We always have to keep trailer trickery in mind. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, I also want to mention something that I like about this trailer. By all accounts, if you pay attention to the way characters are shown, the lighting effects, and the presentation, I'm betting that none of the footage in this trailer happens past the 20-minute mark of the film, which is also good. That's a thing more trailers need to learn the lesson of. So, now that is speculation, but I'm putting money right here. Where's my chips? There, I'm putting money down right now that this is just the first 20 minutes or so of the film. Maybe 30. Anyways, so yeah, there's Ronan. He has snapped and become Ronan. And based on that look, let's just be honest, his family's probably dead. Now, it's not just because of that fact, though. Okay, if his family is alive, he would be with his family. He is not with his family. He is out here stabbing people with a sword. So, by basic logic deduction, yeah, no, his family probably got... Yeah, so that's awesome to know that they're all super dead. And of course, they have a plan. We don't know what that plan is, and it's stated to be a long shot. And then, of course, I love the visuals here. As ever, the art design team is just phenomenal. The completely broken, shattered, really, Avengers symbol there. And then we have this bit. Now, this is actually more interesting than it probably seems at first. Because we know Scott survived. Spoiler. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that Scott is here, in the present, now, at the Avengers HQ, looking for them. That is interesting. Now, a lot of people have been speculating, for a long time actually, that Scott was actually, for lack of a better way to put it, and yes, he's got the van. Sorry, I should point out he has the van. That's the van with the quantum equipment, in case you don't recognize it. Sorry for not pointing that earlier. But the fact that he's here now actually torpedoes one of the theories that has been tossed around the most. And that theory was the fact that he would be lost in the quantum realm, come out of the quantum realm in the past. The fact that he has come out of the quantum realm in the present is extremely interesting. And by the present, of course, I mean the slightly, devastated post-decimation society here. So that could imply a lot of different things. It could imply random chance. It could also imply that he has managed to, what's her face? I can't think of her name. Please forgive me. That she has actually been able to pull herself. Has been able to pull himself back and has obtained a measure of control over the quantum realm. Being able to exit on his own is basically what I'm getting to. It's also possibly a Skrull. I should mention that. I should mention that theory because that's been tossed out several times as well. So, yeah, Dyne. That was her name, Janet Van Dyne. Couldn't think of her damn name. I loved Ant-Man 2, by the way. Ant-Man 2 is still one of my favorite MCU movies. Seriously, it's way up there. I almost wish I was ruminating on that. But I'm ruminating on Ant-Man 1, so that's nice. Anyways, yeah, so unfortunately, there's just a lot to unpack here. Now, I want to say this. I don't think this is a Skrull. Let me just go ahead and say that outright. There's some evidence that it could be a Skrull. He's not in the suit. He could have just found the van and taken it and came here. I don't think he's a Skrull. That's just my take on it. I personally think that he is, in fact, Scott Pym. Or not Scott Pym, god damn it. The other one. Crap, I can't think of his name all of a sudden. They showed it right over here. Scott Lang. There we go, Scott Lang. I think that's Scott Lang. Just my take on that. And again, I could be wrong. I don't know. It's also entirely possible that he has already been to the past and come true. That's true, Pico. Especially if he's actually managed to make some degree of understanding of what's going on. Like I said, with any degree of mastery of the quantum realm. Thus basically being like, guys, I got an idea. Guys, I got an idea. Yeah. I think that's about all I've got to unpack here. But like I said, decent density and very definitely a trailer built for the fans, which is awesome. So, you guys want to watch a trailer with me for the first time? Because I've never seen this. I will, of course, leave it muted. Of course, that's it. All I have to do is conquer the universe. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Give me a second, Rax. Or a minute, rather. Well, hang on. Hold up there. That's what I thought. That is Ventus's, oh god, what's the proper term for that? Dive into the heart? Yes, there is no sound. There will not be any sound because I don't feel like being copywronged. I mean, this song will definitely be copywronged. Wow, there's actually a lot of density here. I keep using that word lately. I'm not trying to, I swear. No, I'm not crying. Shion isn't amazing. Shut up. I've always loved how Ansem the Seeker of Darkness fights, by the way. Just standing there with his arms folded. Hey, it's Mark Hamill. Sorry. I will admit, I've actually said this before, Dream Drop Distance basically had the perfect intro. I mean that with total sincerity. It was moving, it was powerful, it was tons of symbolism. It basically summarized the entirety of the Kingdom Hearts series in one symbolic thing. It was really brilliantly done. Dream Drop Distance had a phenomenal intro. Give me a second to pull up this thing so we can get Rax in here. Zoom is updating. Okay. There we go. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So now you can hear something other than my stupid voice, guys. So...
No, I'm not going to sing the opening for you guys.
I don't know the song. I literally don't know the song.
It's pretty good.
Kingdom Hearts is a JRPG. Wrong! It is hacky slashy. Now, so, usual intro, sky, water. This has been since Kingdom Hearts 1. I don't have anything to add to this. Jump in if you want, by the way. I'll just pause it if you have something to say.
I've only seen this twice, so I'll try to add what I can.
Well, I'm going through a quarter speed right now if you either want to sync up with me or just see on the stream, but it should be pretty easy to keep up with stuff. Face my fears! Yeah. Here we go. So, what I find most interesting, this is just something that occurred to me immediately, is that he's playing chess by himself. Like, did you notice that?
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah, what's-his-face isn't there for some reason at all.
Yeah. I really don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I thought that was.
I mean, maybe it's just symbolic for Ericus being quote unquote dead because he's not actually dead, but for all intents and purposes, he is gone.
That actually could be. Now, one thing I want to mention really quick before I move forward is I enjoy how this visually indicates the etchings of the heart concept I talked about so many times, as he basically looks out the window and gets inspiration for how he moves the chess pieces thanks to the manipulations his older self already did. That's just a nice touch, and I wanted to mention that. No real differences in the reflection that I can tell, Takoida. Although I only noticed a couple things as we go. That's why I'm slowing this down, because there's going to be a lot of things here as we go. But moving on. So there's young Xehanort, or actually, I guess, teenager Xehanort at this point. He sees purple. Purple equals darkness. He is inspired by darkness. He has white eyebrows. That's got to be weird, having just pale white hair. So the first piece he moves is... I can't even tell. I have no idea what that piece was. It looked like Vanitas' piece.
I'm fairly certain it is. I didn't get a good look at it either.
Let me rewind again really quick here. Because his hand is actually covering the head, but you can see, like, really briefly right about there.
Yeah, there's a curve on the bottom, so I think it is.
It would make sense since this is first starting up with Birth by Sleep, so...
Yes, that is Vanitas' piece. Yes.
Okay, so Vanitas' piece being done first. The interactions of Birth by Sleep, obvious. Poor Ventus. Terra, consumed, of course. Turns into Terranort on screen. And obviousness for Aqua. Bye, Aqua. I can't wait to fight you as a boss fight. Bye. What? I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I'm very looking forward.
Now, as I already pointed this out, this is Ventus's dive into the heart there, which shatters. Yeah. Poor Ventus. Unless that's Roxas at this point. No, that's Ventus. Never mind.
Yeah, that's still Ventus.
Just making sure. They look a lot alike, and I admit I have trouble. Because, okay, here's Roxas, I think. Maybe? No. He's just turning into a star. Purple lightning. Now that... Hang on. Rewind a second. You get a good shot of which piece this is right there.
That is that Larxine's piece?
I thought that was Zigbar's.
But
I'm not sure. I don't have a visual of all of them. Hang on, let me
I don't know.
Hang on. Kingdom Hearts best pieces, because I know other people have already looked this stuff up.
Yeah, they've already known about this.
Here we go. Okay, so that is it's piece 10.
Okay, that doesn't
help. Yeah, that doesn't help anything. What the hell? What do we got here? Okay, I see the piece that's clearly not Larxine's, because she has a very clear thing for hers, so that's not it.
That makes sense.
Honestly, I'm going to go with my gut. I think that's Zigbar.
Zigbar? Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I'm seeing multiple people analyzing these, and they disagree on which is which. So I guess we're just going to have to go with our gut on this one, guys.
Yeah.
And any thoughts in chat? Any other thoughts? Who is this?
Seems fairly... It is not Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. Joel.
No, that's definitely not him. We know which piece his is. Yeah, all of the core 5, I guess, pieces are all fairly evident.
Yeah.
Sora's, Xehanort's, Xemnas's, Sod's, and Riku's are all ones that we know pretty definitively.
Mm-hmm.
So continuing. Riku! Kingdom Hearts 1. Why would Zigbar be the one for this one, though? Okay, so that right there is
Seeker of Darkness.
Now, what's most interesting about this, though, and I'm sure you caught on to this, so please forgive me for pointing out the obvious. The symbol on the chess piece for the Seeker of Darkness is the symbol of the frickin' Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
That is extremely interesting to me. I don't know what it means.
I was going to say, we've known that for about 3 years.
I know, it's never really clicked with me before until this exact moment, though. Because I'm an idiot, I guess. I don't know. So, Sod. Poor Riku.
The opening is very Dream Drop Distance.
It is.
If you think about it.
That's true. We never see where he puts Zigbar. He was just tossing the piece, and then he ends up putting the sawed piece down instead. If anything, I'd say that's more fuel to the fire that is Zigbar's piece.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty much his role. I'm over here doing what? Nothing. Don't mind me. So there's.
Sorry if you can hear my heater in the background.
It's fine.
By the way.
So there's Sora again. Fairly obviously the main central key, kingdom key, crown-looking piece. Now I don't know how many of you guys caught this, but as he's falling into the piece there, just watch this. It's only there for like 3 frames. Right. Oh god, hang on. Oh Jesus, I think it's actually less than 3 frames.
Very, very slight.
Right there. God, I barely caught it. It is like 2 or 3 frames right there. You can actually see Sora either reflected in the window or literally falling down outside.
Down outside, yeah.
I don't know what to make of that.
I think that is outside. I don't think it's reflected.
I think you're right. But what I find strange about that is everything in these is done on purpose. I was just talking about that. You know, none of this is done on accident. You just don't just suddenly have Sora falling down in the background. So why is he there? Like, what does that symbolize?
Could be symbolizing his. See, my initial thought is it's not foreshadowing, but it's representative of Dream Drop Distance, the point where he falls under Xehanort's control very briefly.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
I could see that. I could see that.
So it's foreshadowing in universe, but out of universe, it's happening from what we already know.
Yeah. If I was to be really excessively artsy in my analysis on this, I would say it's indicative of the fact that Xehanort is always planning and Sora is always just doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, that's true.
I don't follow.
Either way, so here we got the three best characters in the game right here. I'm kidding. We all know Aqua and Zigbar are better. But, you know, they're still good, right? They're still good. So then there's the Xemnas piece. Oh, okay. So there you go. That is the Xemnas piece.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So he was tossing the Xemnas one earlier. Ah, bad. So, well, we see these 3 people's lives utterly ruined and destroyed. For no reason, too, really. I do love the, like, cloak of shadow just on the ceiling there, just slowly covering the sky. And, of course, losing his memories of Xion. Fairly self-evident. I hope he still has the shell. That would be awesome. In 3.
In Kingdom Hearts 3, yeah.
Yeah. Who's this random guy? It probably doesn't matter.
Just some nobody cares about.
Now, this is actually really cool, and I admit that this is just pure visual, but it's still nice visuals. They're fighting on the chessboard. I mean, it's this roaring downpour, but this is the chessboard with the chess pieces in the background.
I wonder if during the final battle they might do something like this, or if this
that'd be
just
cool.
Gonna purely be an opening thing.
Yeah, it could just be, but I think that'd be really cool if they pulled the chess thing into a more literal sense.
Mm-hmm.
Axel
They've emphasized it for so long now.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, I'm just going to rewind really quick here. Because, again, the symbolism is so overt here, I feel almost silly for commenting on this. But Axel and Roxas going at each other. Axel still looks awesome in 3D. As they're going to center, we see more and more of that centerpiece, which then turns into, let's see, we've got Vanitas on the left, and then Luxord.
Luxord on the right.
And then there's Seeker of Darkness. And I don't know who that is.
The one behind it?
I've got it frozen here whenever you catch up to it. It's like a little bat-looking symbol. I actually don't know who that is.
I know that's not Syx, because Syx is the full moon.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Hmm.
Somebody help us out. Somebody who's seen that chess piece before, because I don't even recognize that piece.
See, I don't either. And in fact, I still have this image up here of all the other chess pieces, and this one isn't on that list. It's not shown at all.
Ooh, okay. Immediate thought. That could be a new character we have no idea about.
That's true.
Like new, but new under Xehanort's control.
That is very true. See you around, Hazardous. That could be someone, yeah, that we just have not seen to date. Because, like, for example, I've got another picture up here, which is when they do the zoom out of the 13 surrounding Sora. None of those 13 are this image. And all of them are fairly self-evident what they are, too.
Mm-hmm.
So...
it's not an E.
It's Ericus, of course! It makes so much sense.
Because it doesn't have connecting pieces to the sides. It's, yeah.
Now, you can see Larxene right behind it. That's the interesting thing. They just slide these in where most of the org members are. That's what makes me go, huh.
Yeah, this is weird. And for those of you saying it's a Union Cross thing, it's not a Union Cross thing. I could tell you that with certainty.
See, now the problem is I've always been under the presumption that the flower-shaped one is the one that represents Marluxia. Which is not this one. It's not on screen right now. I'm looking at the other picture over here on the side. And... because the only thing I can think of is that might be Marluxia, but A, that has nothing to do with Marluxia. And B, like I said, I thought the flower, death thing was Marluxia. I don't know. Anyway, so then we have Larxene. Sorry, moving on. I'm sorry, that's Luxord. The time one was young Xehanort. Right, forgot about that. So sorry, the time one was young Xehanort. This is Luxord. Oh yeah, this one right here. This is the one I've always assumed is Marluxia. I'll just leave it up here for a second for you to tell me how stupid I am.
Because that looks like a... no, it has too many points to be a Wayfinder. Because I was thinking, oh, that's Aquanort.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going with that, but yeah, you already pointed out the flaw in that. Now, I've heard some people theorize that this one is actually Saïx, but I think, geez, it's actually going too fast, isn't it? They're not going to show it. There's another one, I can't even see it on this one, that I usually think of as Saïx, and that's the one which is far pointier, basically. Yeah. It's got a little moon in the spikes. So then we have this. I have no idea who that is.
I think that is Zigbar's, because he's got his crossbows.
That could be.
At least Braig has his crossbows.
Yeah. But then we have the one right behind it, too. Which I don't think I've seen before. Hang on, I'm checking the list here. Looking at the list.
DCEU enters KH. That prior one was Batman.
I knew it! Well, okay.
Oh my gosh.
So, regardless of the individuals, let's go ahead and just analyze one other thing that's weird about this. If you're paying attention, this will end in like a couple of frames from where I'm at. But as you can see, there's still at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 still pieces still in the distance back there that we can't even see.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, at the very least, from a purely visual, symbolic implication, there's lots of them.
Yeah.
And I suppose that could be part of the point they're trying to get across, that darkness overwhelmingly outnumbers light, which would make sense, admittedly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, bam!
They're already outnumbered at least 2-1 based on the prophecy, but there might be more. There might be up to like 15, 16 of them now.
Yeah, no kidding. Tyler actually has a good point. That one in the backer could have been Vexen for the shield. I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So once again, notice that they are still battling on the chessboard here. And you can even see the Seeker of Darkness's piece over there as he's fighting him. Just pointing that out quickly. You can see a lot of the pieces in the background. I'm not stopping for each and every individual one. Then Marluxia shows up. Now what's weird is... So, okay, real quick. Visual design trick here. You'll notice that when we show this scene, Sora charging... Seeker of Darkness over there in the distance, and the camera pulls up just a second so you can very clearly see which chess piece is the Seeker of Darkness. Even ignoring the fact that they showed it earlier, this makes it really, really clear. That's him. But what's interesting to me about this is that when Marluxia shows up in a second, they don't pull the same trick again. He's just kind of there with no piece behind him. Now, if I was really inclined to well, okay, it could be that one. No, that's the time one.
When they show, because he charges at Xemnas, which is basically the same direction as where Marluxia was.
Mm-hmm.
Do they show Xemnas's piece?
Yeah, let's rewind just a second here. See why I have this on quarter speed, guys?
Yeah, this is probably the densest thing we've analyzed yet.
Yep. So, there we go. So there's Marluxia coming in. Now, I thought that might be it, but if you pay attention, that's just the time one again in the background. So that's just young Xehanort. And he does the swing. Sora dodges. Comes up to the thing. Charges right back at him. And there's Xemnas. Not seeing any pieces least not in any significant sense. Oh, never mind. There's Xemnas' piece right there. So, they deliberately didn't show a piece from Marluxia.
Piece.
That's interesting. It is entirely possible. You and I have already theorized that he's doing his own thing.
We're both going nuts right now over this. We both thought that he's not actually part of the 13, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's, I mean, again, this is why I pay attention to the construction of things, because you can tell what the intent is based on presentation. And again, very clearly showing both Xemnas and Seeker of Darkness's pieces, and very clearly no actual Marluxia piece, as I just showed.
Actually, Nils Wager, the Blue Eyes thing, that was later changed for the English release, or for a future trailer that they did. They changed them to yellow. However,
they are blue here. It's worth noting.
Okay, they can't be making this error 3 times.
No, they can't. Yeah.
They did this. Oh, what is going on?
So Marluxia is clearly doing something on his own thing, probably related, Unchained or Cross, whatever it is at this point in time.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, for a while, it's been speculated that Marluxia has been infiltrating the Foretellers, the new Foretellers. But the most recent update has called that into question because there are a lot of things going on that really make him a little more ambiguous.
Oh, yeah. Still not sure what's going on with him. Thank you very, very much, Rockhound. As ever, I do much appreciate those Twitch Prime subs. What would you like to put that towards? So yeah, blue eyes, no symbol. Yeah, I think we could definitively say that's on purpose. I think we can agree on that. So then he's fighting Xemnas. Xemnas is awesome. He has lightsabers. It's automatically a cool factor.
I'm so glad I caught that and decided to point it out.
So then that piece goes down, and we know what that piece represents. That's Master Xehanort himself. That's been obvious since the beginning. Because, and of course...
the very beginning, yeah.
Yep.
Because it's the goat symbol on his Keyblade, yep.
Mm-hmm. And then as he's doing it, we see just a little bit of a flash of his future self on his present self. And I just want to once again reiterate how messed up of a person you have to be to manipulate your younger self. There's just a level of screwed up there. I need to make sure that I do the right thing when I was a kid. Hang on, really.
It's predestination paradox, so it's not really making sure I do the right thing so much as I have forced my own hand.
Well, yeah, but that's my point. In other words, at least my take on it is that he is so callous and horrible is that he manipulates even himself.
Right, yeah.
Like, Jesus. Anyways, so, I'm sorry, what are you pointing out here? Max time? I've rewinded here to the chess scene.
The Master Keeper, which is Ericus's Keyblade.
You mean what Sora's using? Right. Hang on, I wasn't even looking at that.
Yeah.
No, that does look like it. Kind of? I don't know. Hang on, let's rewind a bit more. Okay, so that's clearly just the Kingdom Key.
Yeah.
So then Marluxia attacks. Hang on. Still the Kingdom Key. Xemnas is still awesome.
Still the Kingdom Key.
Yeah. So he turns into Super Xemnas. Still want to buy that cloak someday. No.
Are you sure? Max time?
Hang on.
Because I'm not seeing it.
By the way, Amber Eyes. I can't quite tell. I saw the chain swing there, and I thought I might be able to tell by the chain, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no. I think that's still just the Kingdom Key, at least at the moment. Xehanort is evil. In case you missed it. Obviousness, Xemnas, Seeker of Darkness, and Xehanort, the core 3, as usual.
Young Master Xehanort's eyes have always been yellow, Nils Wager.
Yeah, they're naturally yellow. Or possibly they were manipulated that way by his future self. It's also a possible interpretation. So then you see Riku and Mickey, I think. Yep, their Keyblades come in to help defend them. We're all here. Kairi's there. Kairi's got her Keyblade. Ooh, Kairi playable. He's got his Keyblade. I don't think there's anything else for the rest of this.
No Lee for some reason.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, that is it. That's what I thought. But yeah, I'm actually kind of curious why. I mean, I guess they wanted to go with the core group, and this is basically as core group as it gets. But I don't know. It feels like a weird thing to go ahead and have just the 6 of them here instead of the many others that could be there. Like, for example, like they did in Dream Drop Distance, where we saw like all of them there, including Roxas and Ventus, and yeah. Anyways,
I need to get a freeze frame of Marluxia's eyes.
oh sure.
Get that out. Get the community going on that.
Hang on. Right here. Here's a picture if you want to just snap it or screen cap it. I have perfect frame right there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I noticed the Kingdom Hearts 2 close as well. So that actually makes... You know what? That actually does make sense, Max Time, now that I'm thinking about it. Because this is probably... It's supposed to be the beginning. This is how it starts. And then, you know, obviously, hopefully, they'll get more later. It does seem a little bit strange, just because, again, in DDD, they did show Aqua and Ventus and Roxas and Terra. And I think that was it for the additionals. Lee wasn't there yet because Lee wasn't a thing yet. Did you get the screen cap, by the way?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Just wanted to check one more thing here really quick. By the way, in case you haven't checked my website, did you guys know I have a website? We have decided to push back the Kingdom Hearts 3 launch. It'll be in February. It's already on the website. I forget the date.
It's
February something.
8th, I think.
It's the first Friday in February is what it should be.
Yeah, it's
so
that.
So yeah, that's the intro, the opening movie to Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't know. I mean, it looks like it'll be okay.
Friday in February because the 1st is, it's February 1st.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So then secondary. Anyways, so yeah, that's Kingdom Hearts 3. It looks like it might be okay. I don't know. I mean, it might be a passable game.
It looks like a dumb Disney game. I won't play it.
Honestly, yeah. Why would you even put Disney and Final Fantasy together? Those things don't. I don't get this.
Well, happy preemptive birthday, Ginger Ninja.
Yes, I hope
you're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, no kidding. So as a quick aside, several people have asked, am I going to do a Kingdom Hearts lead-up thing to this? I want to. I actually have I exactly have in mind what I want to do for that. It wouldn't be long. It would be basically a stream. I'd talk about some of the lead-up and some of the core points of the story, and then I'd open it up for questions for anybody who is uncertain about any parts of the lore, because I could talk about Kingdom Hearts lore off the top of my head. So
yeah, same here. So if you are doing that, would you mind if I joined?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So I don't have a date for that yet. I'm still cramming a ton of work. But I do want to do a lead-up. Several people have requested a lead-up. Several people have donated for a lead-up. So it's probably going to happen. Just letting you guys know.
I might go ahead and put together a retrospective video or something in what little spare time I've got.
I understand the problem with that one. Anyways, that's actually all I've got for today. Checking the thing here. Yep, that's all my notes.
Hope you guys have enjoyed this very spontaneous.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. Hey, there's a new. I mean, we always knew there was a. I shouldn't say we always. We knew for the last several days there was going to be a trailer dropping when Loreweek started. I just didn't think it was going to be something like this.
Yeah, it was going to be at 8 o'clock, or not 8, at 10 o'clock EST.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you all for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. So I'll see you guys next Sunday.
See you guys.